Welcome, Tilly. Welcome, Kevin. Welcome, Justin, and welcome, Tracy. Thank you all. It's great to see you today, this evening, my time today, your time, and thank you for your time, most importantly. Kevin, I might ask yourself first, a bit of an icebreaker, and Tilly as well, but I'd love to know, in your profession, what was the most memorable aha moment, as we call them, as a UX designer, where you realised the true impact of your work on enhancing user experience, and how did it shape your approach to design thereafter? Kevin, I'll start with your good self.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I think the biggest moment for me is probably when I, was brought on to improve a certain product, and then to see it come to life. So I think the best example for me was maybe when I was working at Jaguar Land Rover. One of the projects I was working on was when users would they had a feature where they put their foot under the car and then the boot would open. But initially it was put too far back because, from an engineering perspective, they kind of thought, well, if we put it somewhere underneath the vehicle, it should just work right. But obviously that wasn't really the case. And we kind of did some discovery. And although it seemed like a small bit of exercise, being able to, carry out the research and, roll out these new changes onto live vehicles, that was really obviously eye-opening for me. And, being able to just see that come to life that was probably my first aha, or the most exciting aha moment.
I love it. I'm going to go around and introduce all of the panel quickly as well. But Tilly, thank you. Tilly, if you could introduce yourself and answer a similar question around an aha moment that you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. I'm Tilly, and I'm a lead product designer at Rightmove. So in terms of an aha moment, like this one was actually slightly later in my career, so it was maybe more of a reminder rather than an aha moment. But about 2 years, coming up to 3 years ago, actually now, I did a piece of research at Rightmove, which was understanding how couples look for a property together. Because obviously the property search journey online is kind of designed for one person to go through. We wanted to understand more about how couples share the load of looking for a new home. And it was a diary study. And so the way that we designed the piece of research, which we had them write a letter to each other at the start of the week. And then they went through this process together. And then at the end, there was lots of different activities they had to complete. And at the end, they wrote another letter to each other. And we asked them if they would be happy to share the letters with each other. And sitting in those interviews and kind of hearing the emotions that kind of go into a home search, and being a product designer at Rightmove, you're so integral to all those emotions. And by the end of it, kind of seeing almost like, we said, you can write, it can be a love letter, it can be, you sort of annoy me in this way, or this stresses me out. And they were just so kind of full of emotion and happiness. So I think for me, that was a real reminder that what we're doing isn't just about the experience that you're going through, but actually the impact that it has on people's lives. So I think that would be mine.
I love that. And it resonates with me because many in the audience are considering a change of career, which is a very emotive life decision as well, and very proud to have a team of enrolment advisors that actually guide people with empathy through those sorts of decisions. And that sounds like a fantastic aha moment. Justin, thank you. Also, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and we'll then move to Tracy as well.
Sure, no problem. Hi, I'm Justin. I'm the UX subject lead here at FourthRev. So I look after building the course content, ensuring it's the right content to help people succeed to start their careers as UX designers. I'm a former career changer myself, from finance to UX design. And prior to FourthRev, I was head of user research and design thinking at BT Business.
It's great to have you not only on board, but also contributing so heavily to the learning that the learners undertake. Thank you kindly, Justin. Yeah. Tracy, it's a great pleasure to introduce yourself. Thank you, introduce you, but thank you for joining us this evening. May I ask an introduction from your good self? Sorry, Tracy.
Somebody had to do that and it had to be me. So apologies, but so my name's Tracy. I'm one of the career coaches at FourthRev. I work with the learners to help them understand what great career paths look like for them, and then help work with them to get the clarity of exactly what they're looking for, the qualities they're bringing, including the transferable skills for the career changes. And also help them with the confidence so that they can achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve.
And thank you. We are always in awe of the stories we get from yourself and the team regarding the coaching of the learners through the Career Accelerators. They're inspiring. It does bring me to a thought that just popped into my head, and anyone's welcome to run with this. Imagine if we donated $1 to charity every time we were on mute and talking. I think there'd be some really beneficial charities that would obtain a lot of money. Maybe that's a product or a user experience someone can walk away from this webinar with. Growth and demand in UX at the moment. Kate Parker, one of the UK-based program designers we've been also working with to develop the coursework for the program, recently shared that her company in LiveScore plans to double their team by the end of the year. There's continued growth and acknowledgement and understanding of the impact of strong design teams can have on a business. And there's really a need to differentiate products based on experience. And there's so much homogenization and saturation in the market. Tilly, I guess, do you agree? And are you seeing the same in your field, but also your business as well?
I agree in part to this. I think where there's a slight difference is around the acknowledgement and the understanding. So there's certainly a huge growth in the acknowledgement of the impact UX design can have on businesses. As you said, we're seeing bigger design teams, more jobs in the market, UX roles in emerging industries, UX roles in industries which never would have even considered design before, which is obviously amazing progress. In my experience, I think when you're kind of on the ground, there's a bit of a way to go in improving the real understanding of how we work and what the journey to creating and designing an incredible experience actually looks like. So yeah, I guess it obviously hugely depends on the industry you're in. It's probably worse in banking and finance than if you're at a startup. But I think there's always some degree of thought change needed at a ground level. And that's not to sound negative at all. I think it's a really fun challenge. It's a part of the job that I actually really enjoy, and just kind of makes those interpersonal skills more relevant than ever.
I think that also hopefully creates opportunity for many in the audience today, moving ahead when there is more understanding and more opportunity as a result of that. All of you mentioned ahead of the webinar that you are hiring for junior and senior UX designers, UI designers, researchers, and product designers at the moment. Can you expand on the variety of roles available to those interested in the user experience or product design? And I might go with, or anyone can answer that one, but Kevin, especially, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So I didn't actually do an intro by myself. So I've been a freelance designer for about 11, 12 years now. And I previously worked with Justin at BT. And I actually just started at Toyota yesterday. So it's my second day there. But I think, yeah, but I think kind of touching on your point about, the market expanding. So, when I first started, I kind of just stumbled into it where I was a graphic designer, and a lot of small companies, even kind of bars and restaurants, they were asking me oh, can you make, I was doing flyers and posters for them. And suddenly they started asking me, can you do websites? And obviously at the time, not many people were just doing websites, and there wasn't things like WordPress. It wasn't that as easily accessible. So I kind of transitioned at that point. But then suddenly now, it doesn't matter kind of what Tilly said, regardless of what industry you're in, there's always a demand for UX designers and developers, because there is just this need for a web presence nowadays. It's kind of like your digital front door. So yeah, there's just so many opportunity out there to kind of get into the industry, regardless whether it's through UX, UI, or research. And yeah, I think just reaching out to kind of a lot of different people and seeing what kind of jobs there are within certain companies, I think that's really beneficial as well.
That's interesting, and I feel it's also that intersection between physical and digital. There's not many.
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty, but I mean, your industry, for example, almost every car would certainly have a digital component now. With
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like 10 years ago, they probably wouldn't have been hiring UX designers, and certainly there weren't that many UX designer roles 10 years ago. So yeah, but suddenly it's like, you know, there are over 1,000 designers in Toyota, and you know, that's just in the European market. Like, you know, there'll be like in Japan and North America as well. You know, I'm just meeting some of my colleagues for the first time today. But yeah, again, similar to kind of BT when me and Justin were working together. You know, before selling broadband, I know broadband itself is kind of your access to the web, but before it was almost like you call up BT and you kind of connect the lines. But now there's so many different products that BT would offer, and those are the kind of things that you end up working, because a lot of companies, they want to think about different ways of branching out their organization in terms of what they provide as well. So that's what a lot of things. So despite the fact that, you know, BT is a broadband provider, there were loads of different products that we were working on to try and expand on what BT can provide as an organization.
And Kevin, thank you so much for joining us on your second day with. If everyone could get around Justin and give him a thumbs up or whatever it may be, but we genuinely do appreciate your time, and thank you for your expertise. Justin, I guess of those roles that are emerging and are in demand, what do you feel would be best suited for those wanting to completely change careers into the UX especially, and what are some of the great transferable skills to have?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I would first of all say that all the roles that we've mentioned, you know, UX designer, UI designer, user researcher, are certainly possible for a career change and a transfer, and there's no true blocker. I think when it comes to UX design and UI design, they can initially appear more challenging because there is the hard skill of designing. So wireframes for UX and UI or user interface for UI. But, you know, this is a hard skill, but it's not, you know, nuclear physics. It can be learned. And if you are naturally creative or skilled in art, it can help you pick it up quite quickly. You know, it's not a deal breaker, but that can be quite good. I think if you're looking to move like super quickly without building that hard skill, which is, you know, relatively attainable, I would say you could look at a user research job. Of course, you'd be competing with people with degrees in human-computer interaction and research experience, but there would be less hard skills required to go into that. Another possible route could be as a UX content writer, which is more a tangent field to UX. So if you've got zero experience in product or development, you could maybe move into UX copywriting, get involved with the product team there, and from there make a career change further into UX. I've seen that happen, you know, regularly at companies where I've worked. But there are quite a lot of transferable skills that everyone will likely have from their previous jobs. And these are usually the soft skills, which are the most important for UX, because the reality is there's only one super hard skill, and that's the actual designing. So I look at kind of 4 key sets of soft skills. You have your communication and collaboration. So you're always going to be, well, almost always working within a team. So you need to work together with other people to make decisions. And you're going to be constantly pitching your ideas to stakeholders. So you need to be able to communicate what you're designing. The second biggest thing is you're going to need to think creatively and critically to solve problems. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're creating experience that help people solve their own problems and achieve their own goals. And it's likely that you've probably done critical problem solving at your previous job. So maybe you improve sales or customer experience, but you didn't necessarily use UX to solve that problem. The third set of soft skills would be empathy. So anyone that's read a little bit about UX design would know that this is very crucial. So if you've done any kind of design thinking, which is using the kind of designer mindset to approach problems, or any research, that could go a long way. I know a lot of people don't have this experience, but that's been a real plus when I've looked at people to hire in the past. And then the last soft skill I would say is being adaptable and open to feedback. You cannot get attached to your work. You're not building artwork for yourself or to like increase in value. You're designing for the end users. So you need to be prepared to constantly iterate and change based on either their feedback or changing business needs. And these might not align with your personal preferences. So it's important to be open to feedback and willing to change quickly. But there's a lot of soft skills, as you can see, that people could already have in their previous jobs. And as far as the hard skills goes, they're quite attainable.
That's really, really interesting. I'm going to circle back to a few of the points that you've touched on shortly as well, because in the design of the content of this program, it's completed in consultation with industry first and academic underpinnings from King's following, and that's so important to ensure relevance. And I'll touch on that again. But at the forefront of that is you, Tracy. You've been working with some of the first cohort of the UX learners. Are you encountering many career changes, or what fields they're coming from, and what sort of barriers have that had to overcome, do you feel?
Yeah, well, the biggest barrier is confidence, I think, with career changes. But I mean, there's a variety of different individuals from HR, from NHS, some slightly allied in terms of product owner, web developers. But the key thing is exactly what Justin was saying, is concentrate on the transferable skills. Justin gave a really good list there, and it's having that confidence in those transferable skills as well as the technical skills that you will be learning. And I think it's that understanding of the power of those skills that's really, really important. Most people undervalue the transferable skills when they start to work with a coach, but then they realize just how important they are. The other thing I always encourage people to do is embrace their differences. They've come from a slightly different background, but that gives them a different perspective, which can be incredibly powerful. So embrace your difference. Don't think of it as a negative, definitely a positive.
Sage advice. And you must have so much satisfaction in guiding and coaching people through that, as we do at the front end, in ensuring the correct decisions are made. That's fantastic. Just a reminder for everyone also, if you can pop your questions, there's some great ones coming through in the Q&A function, not in the chat function, and feel free to read them and upvote them as you've deemed necessary as well, and we'll get to the most popular ones first. On the next topic, I guess, is what employers are looking for and how to exceed expectations. I guess as digital becomes more embedded in our everyday lives, more and more companies are looking for that experienced designers. But according to Springboard, most new designers lack experience when working on real-world projects. How do they, longer term, how do they ramp up that level of experience? And it's often the catch-22. How do I get the experience without the job? But how do I get the job without the experience? Tilly, and then the panel, how important is industry experience, and what elements do employers want to see showcased in a UX designer or product portfolio when hiring?
So this, again, it's a hard one to answer, because obviously it's very dependent on the job and the role itself and how much seniority is needed. Industry experience is obviously a plus. It's great to see someone has a real world kind of view of the work which they're doing. And I guess like the reason why it can be quite important is because it's not just the theory, it's the understanding of balancing the multiple different needs of a business. But I also think that if you don't have industry experience in the specific role which you're looking to get into, as Justin and Tracy have said, like the other transferable skills and other ways which you can kind of prove that you would be able to do the job at hand will also work in your favor. I think it's, when we're interviewing candidates, is looking at the rounded view of someone. And like, for example, at Rightmove, we would never say no industry experience, then no interview. but it's more about, what did you learn during that industry experience? And if you don't have that experience, how can you show us that you do have those skills in other ways? As similar to what Justin was saying. And then what the second half of your question, sorry, what's the second half?
Well, and showcasing, I guess, portfolios, or in this program's case, positioning their experience within the industry project. How valuable is that in telling a story of their experience, even during a program, for employers such as yourself?
Yeah, so being able to tell the story of your portfolio or a case study of your experience is really, really important. This is a skill which the reason why we kind of look for this in interviews is because when you're working in a business, you'll have to demonstrate this skill quite frequently when you're managing stakeholders, presenting back to your design team. You need to sort of be able to tailor the content to the audience. And that's why we look for that in an interview. So yeah, that is really important. But yeah, with your portfolio, I noticed a question pop up around kind of advice for the portfolio. Treat it like a UX project, seek feedback, test it on people, test it on your friends, see how well it goes down.
That's great. Kevin, I guess you can relate your own experience recently, and hopefully, but how important is exuding that passion about user experience for landing an interview and getting hired in UX, do you feel?
Yeah, so obviously, if you were to, do the FourthRev King's College course, they talk through a lot of the kind of process that you would go through of how to put together UX projects. But even, in your own time, one of the things that I'm always an advocate for juniors or people who are career changing is, as Justin mentioned, we're not doing nuclear science here. Everything and anything is available for you online. Figma, you can pay for it. It's not that expensive, but it is free. So you can, go on it and start doing your own mini projects. If you are very interested in, then, even just like taking on, any websites that you think could be improved on, just taking that, doing your own little mini projects on it, putting together some user research. What do you think? What do your friends think about this website? And then creating some low fidelity, high fidelity mockups and creating prototypes. So as Tilly said, like showing that you're passionate about it. They don't necessarily have to be professional work. So even in my own portfolio, I've got a section that's for professional work, but on my Behance page, I've got a lot of just little fun projects that I'm really passionate about. Like I love Spider-Man. So whenever a new Spider-Man film comes out, I'll just do like a little website based on Spider-Man. So it's things like that where, when I interviewed with BT previously, that was something that, the person who was hiring saw immediately, and he was really interested in it. And that was where we kind of ended up having a conversation. So, it could be anything that you're interested in. If you like cars, maybe do a few projects on like car websites, or like sports, football, basketball, whatever it is. It might be that there's already a Premier League website or an NBA website, but it doesn't really matter. You can create your own version of it and try and improve on things that you feel could be improved on. So that would be my advice on that.
Isn't that interesting? I guess by default, and even in many ways, subconsciously, we're experts. Having interacted with how many websites a day, I'd hate to guess, and someone might know, but thinking of it differently about the actual experience and thinking of that through the improvement angle is a great little project, as you've mentioned. Thank you. Yeah. Tracy, how can one showcase that passion or growth mindset and that hunger to learn in an application, and certainly in their profile, but also during an interview process, do you feel?
I think, first of all, it's understanding yourself, why you are passionate. I think often when I start to work with individuals at the beginning of a course, I can sort of feel their passion, but they can't articulate it terribly well. So it's understanding yourself better so that you can articulate that passion. I love Kevin's example about Spider-Man, because that being genuine is about what are your passions. And I immediately smiled, and you know, it was a point where I could see that or understand that passion. So find out you know, ways you can articulate it that are personal to you. So understand yourself and your motivation first, and why you're passionate about it, so that you can then articulate it, demonstrate it through portfolios. Absolutely. I think the other thing, we were talking about industry experience as well. And if you haven't got the relevant industry experience, you can also demonstrate the passion for coming into it by doing your research, doing your homework. You know, if you understand what's great about that industry, what's attracting you, then often that enthusiasm, that passion for the industry and that particular organisation will really work wonders in an interview, because the motivation in an interview is one of the most important things that you can project. So motivation for UX design, but also motivation for them and the industry that the organisation's in. So understand, get the clarity, and then be able to articulate it effectively, and confidence as well. Work with your coach to gain that confidence.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I do recall many moons ago doing 1% more than the people I was competing for a job with, and it was actually a volunteer. I actually volunteered to gain some experience, and that was the difference as well. And I showed a passion through doing that at an age when it wasn't really the done thing either. We've got lots of questions coming through, and there's a really good one or a comment I do want to get to, but I've got a couple more here just to broaden what we've discussed already, and develop strategies for advancing one's career in UX, because we have three types of customers that do, or learners that do the program, being career starters, career changes, as we've mentioned as well, and those looking to advance their career. So Justin and Kevin, you both were closely involved in the development of the content for the program. How much industry experience do learners gain from doing the program, and how can this be beneficial to them, do you feel?
Sure, I can start with this one. I'll kind of piggyback on what we've talked about on the last couple questions. When I've always been interviewing someone, most recently at my last job at BT, I'm looking for 3 things for a new starter, someone new to the industry. The first thing is passion, which we talked about. The other is intent or effort. So that can be seen through the effort they put for the interview, the effort they put in their portfolio, or it could be they're willing to pay money to do a course. Means that they're quite serious about the job they want to do, versus someone who hasn't. It doesn't necessarily mean that a self-teacher is a self-taught person. It should be seen in a negative way, but that does show intent. And then the third thing that I'm looking for is actual knowledge of UX content, UX ways of working, UX deliverables. And I think that's where one of the ways where this course can really shine. So in the 9 months, you will have a lot of experience to UX principles and diverse ways of working, way more than you would have at pretty much any other job. Now, of course, if you're working at it, like let's say you start at an agency, of course, you might be working on that one project 8 hours a day. So you might develop a stronger specificity for what you're working on. But one, you don't need that when you're starting. You don't need specificity. And 2, you won't get that breadth that you get with the course. So, I can't put an exact time frame, but you'd be learning practically every aspect of UX, deep dives in research, design principles, how to use Figma, and you're not going to get that as much at another place. You'll get the depth, but you won't get the breadth. And I think having that breadth and having more, Kevin and I always talk about being a UX generalist when you start. I think that's quite important. So I think the course adds a ton of value within. It's even 6 months learning and 3 months employer project. And then also on that course, while you're doing the work, you're building your portfolio. And I think for Tilly and Kevin and I all know that it can be sometimes hard to motivate yourself to put together the portfolio. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. Like Tilly said, you need to test it with people. So in this course, you'll be doing, a fictional project, practical activities, real life employer projects. So if you're looking at building a portfolio of 3 to 5 case studies, that will be easily done through the course. And it's no small feat putting together a portfolio. So I think building that portfolio, showing intent by signing up for a course and giving you all that knowledge within a short amount of time to become a solid UX generalist can really help kickstart that career.
That's a very good point. It's productive outcome to your education through the investment in yourself, not only with the learning, but the development of the portfolio and the skills that Tracy and co provide as well. That's somewhat of a different approach. Traditionally, it may be digesting content and demonstrating competence through an examination and putting that to one side and never looking at it again. To us, the value is in that demonstration of learning for employment outcomes and advancement as well. Also, Kevin, anything to include on what Justin has mentioned there?
Yeah, I think the UX generalist side of thing, for me, I feel like that is very important, because you don't particularly want to specialize in a skill right away, or at least I don't think so, because it might be that that's not the field that you enjoy. You kind of want to just dabble in everything and then see which part you want to go into. And then and also when you're trying to get into the industry, you want to apply for a broader range of roles, not necessarily. So say, for example, if you are more specifically interested in research, it's probably easier to get into apply for a generalist role, get into a UX role, and then diverge into research, as opposed to just narrowing down on junior research roles. But going back onto the benefits of the course, I think just showing you how to structure your case studies in a good way to demonstrate to employers, that's definitely one of the key benefits. And also the way we've structured a lot of the exercises and activities, again, they're all very specific points about like what employers would be looking for. So that aspect of the course, I think, would be beneficial to anyone who's thinking about it.
Completely agree. And it is certainly designed to not only provide the technical nous, but also the business application is what employers are certainly seeking, as well as the employability and that growth mindset that Tracy touched on, and the confidence that comes with that as well. Tilly, I guess, and for the panel, before we get to the questions, because there's some fantastic questions in there. So last question for me: as the field grows, UX design, product design roles may diversify. Do you notice any emerging or specialized area within UX? And I'm thinking, as the audience probably is, AI assisted design, the job seekers should keep an eye on for the future.
So I think, well, first, accessibility and understanding accessibility and design has been around for a while, but I'm certainly noticing now more. It's kind of showing up on more job descriptions for open job roles. So I think a real understanding of accessibility, and not just the impact that it's having on the direct experience, but the an overall accessible experience in the product that you're working on is really important. I think areas around like green sustainability design as well, and this isn't just an understanding of kind of creating products around that have like a green vision or mission, but thinking about you mentioned generative AI, that if we're using lots of generative AI, what impact is that having on the servers? Then what impact is that having on the environment? So real understanding of those things as well, I think is, I've definitely noticed is cropping up more and more, and it's something that we always ask candidates about, and they seem to be pretty in the know on it. So I think they're definitely areas to upskill in.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
And that along with ethics that come with some of that as well. Any other specialised areas from the audience, Justin, Kevin, Tracy, or things that you're witnessing?
I just wanted to touch a bit more on the sustainability one, because I think it's like a really interesting aspect that people probably on this call haven't really thought about it at necessarily a deep level, but you're seeing companies starting to do things like create non-human personas. So we're used to creating personas that we design for as people, but what about the other animals that we impact and other things we impact? You're looking at trying to reduce, well, we already talked about CO2 reduction with Tilly, but also like other behaviors that users could do that would negatively affect the environment, also social sustainability. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff, and it's really huge in service design, and it's trickling into UX. I also think there's like a much stronger, and this is also, AI comes into a little bit, focus on the data informed design and how much data UX designers are using and service designers are using, and all decisions should come from data, and straying away from just doing qualitative research with a few people and not diving deeper into the data. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and how that intersects with still having empathy and gaining insights. So it's a real interesting field. And if I think a UX designer can get their head around the basic concepts of data analysis and data science, I think that can be a big plus for their careers going forward.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there is a question relating to that. I might ask firstly if anyone's got any other trends or specialised areas that they'd like to mention, but there is a specific question I'll come to first regarding exactly that, Justin. I'll move on if anyone, right here. So
I was just going to say,
yeah, go.
Yeah, it's good to just keep up to date with digital trends as well. So, within the last 12 years of me working, literally I've gone through kind of every single iteration of things just change so quickly. So for example, 10 years ago, responsive website wasn't even a thing, where you've got like a desktop, tablet, mobile. Suddenly everyone is doing that. And then iPads came out. So suddenly we have to design for a tablet screen. And then smartwatch. So a lot of companies now are doing apps for smartwatch. And then now VR as well with the Apple devices. That's going to be, becoming a popular product at some point, most definitely. And then again, with all the AI and crypto and Web 3.0, just being able to understand. It doesn't. I'm not saying you've got to be an expert in all of them, but having like a good general understanding of them would really benefit you when you it might become useful when you go in for an interview, right? So, for example, something that I did before, I've done like kind of affiliated marketing before. It's just of my own personal interest, and when I had an interview with another company, that topic came up, and then we ended up having a really good discussion. So yeah, keeping up with digital trends and making sure you are up to date with new things, just having a good sound knowledge of new technologies in general. That would be something that I would advise.
Yeah, I mean, we have like screenless design now, which we didn't have 10 years ago, and you look at voice products, it's pretty wild.
Exactly. Yeah, like Amazon, Alexa, and now with kind of working with Tracy as well, there's a lot of they're doing voice command and things like that, and that's a standard thing now in most vehicles. So again, none of these existed 10 years ago, but now everybody has it. So technology is changing really fast, and just knowing what could affect UX in the future is really important, I think.
I think the audience have some brilliant takeaways already just from this discussion, and we'll certainly open up the Q&A now that will hold themselves in good stead, knowing those practical little pieces of understanding, of research, of keeping abreast of trends and things like that is going to help a great deal. Let me just open the Q&A because I did want to come back to Justin. the question is, do we provide courses for UX research, or is this intertwined within the UX design course? It's such an important part. Justin, can you provide an overview of how research is embedded within the program?
Sure. Yep. So we don't have a standalone course, but we have we call them modules, which is what we focus on in a specific week. We have quite a few on user research specifically. So starting off in the discovery phase and building empathy, that we have a whole section on that. So, and you actually go out and do interviews and conduct research and do your research plan, and we mark and review that and give you feedback. And then you will also have a chance to do, there's a whole module on usability testing. So actually a lot of user research roles, you'll be doing a lot of usability testing every sprint. So every couple of weeks, we have a whole thing on that, and you will do usability testing on your own prototype. And then we also have an optimization module, which again is like a micro course within a week. And that focuses on once a product is launched, typical types of testing and data analysis, and there's further research there. So it's quite thorough, but at the same time, you know, on Kevin's point with becoming a UX generalist, we think it's important as a UX designer to know how to do research. And so we've included in there, and you would certainly be able to move into research after this course if that would be your preferred avenue to go into.
Such a pivotal and important part for everyone's benefit. The three courses are understanding users. We have designing for user needs and user-centered product optimization, followed by that employer-facing project that I mentioned at the end. I'm going to condense a few questions into one, but the most popular one certainly is resonating with the audience, and one for Tilly and Tracy. But I will condense some of the questions that are very similar to this one. As a graduate with no experience, what is the best way to get into the field? I'll start with Tilly, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's so many things that can come into this answer. I'm going to try and keep this condensed. So we've spoken a lot about like the passion, kind of that I think just underpins everything which I'm about to say, because I think by being excited about it, the people that you collaborate with and talk to will see that excitement, and probably be more willing to kind of connect with you in the future and help you out. So that underpins everything. I would say, depending on how early you are in terms of trying to get into this, whether you've kind of done the course or not, I think always following publications. So Smashing magazine is absolutely great. Offers a huge amount of information and resources on like latest trends, best practices, listening to podcasts. So Design Matters is an absolutely amazing podcast. And there's also the UX podcast. And I think, so yes, then that's that. Then like collaborating, speaking to different people where you can, whether that's through LinkedIn, attending workshops, attending webinars like this, is really, really important. And kind of remembering that anyone that you meet along the way, they might just be someone that might help you later down the line. So kind of keeping those relationships, is super important as well. And then lastly, I would say kind of keeping, I guess like experimenting with new tools, which kind of coming out. If you are in a job that isn't allowing you to experiment with these tools, finding the time where you can, maybe proactively finding a way to integrate this into what you're doing, integrate those tools into what you're doing, so that you're kind of continuously learning, but all underpinned by that passion and excitement for sure.
Exactly, that's a common theme. Tracy, anything to add for the many people looking to commence careers in UX in the audience?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree with everything Tilly said. I thought it was a really good summary. I think the other thing is, just because you're starting out in your career, don't underestimate the other skills that you've picked up along the way. So, you know, we talked about the transferable skills with career changes. It's the same for career starters. You know, you will, you know, through whatever route you've taken, you will have picked up a lot of those softer skills that Justin talked about. So, you know, be bold in terms of promoting those. Try, and I also agree about the contacts, really go out and ask people to help you. People established in their careers love helping starters, particularly if they really like the career that they do. So don't be afraid to go onto LinkedIn with someone that you admire, a path that, you know, that's gone down a path you'd love to take, and ask their advice. You know, it needs to be something small, but people love to help. So reach out. And as Tilly said, you know, networks are really important. Those relationships that you start to build, that's an important technique to learn throughout your career in terms of building on those networks. And it's, as Tilly said as well, finding a way of demonstrating your passion in whatever way you can, whether it's a portfolio, whether it's little projects you do that you can demonstrate to other people. Join groups on LinkedIn, be active to get yourself known, but also understand the market that you want to go into, you know, map that market, the sectors that you're interested in. Start to be active in groups and things on LinkedIn for that as well, so that you're picking up the terminology, the trends, so that you'll appear to be interested and confident when you go to interview.
Here's a tip for free as well. That's something that I've worked with youth many moons ago, was to look at contracts that have been awarded some, you know, a little while ago, and that could be government contracts, it could be procurement of large corporates and things like that, to see if there have been large projects that are awarded in the digital space, and target them, because they're more likely to be upcoming to recruitment times and cycles and things like that as well. Moving through more questions. There's a couple that are the same here, so I am going to touch on these two first, but any software skills, I mean, Figma and Miro are pivotal in the program and are extensively used. Are there any others that the panel feels advantageous to learn or know and demonstrate competence in an interview with?
For me personally, I think if a company is very specific about you needing to know a certain tool or software in order to work there, that would be a bit of a red flag for me, because, you know, anyone can learn a software. It's really about everything that you're going to learn, you would learn on this course, is about the design thinking, and that process is far more important to demonstrate that you know how to do, rather than just knowing how to use, I don't know, for example, Miro, as you said, you kind of use that across this course. But I don't think there's anything other than that that you would need to know. That would be my...
That's really, really valuable for everyone. Thank you for that. Getting through some more questions. Someone's asked about payment plans. I'll touch on that after we say thank you to the panel. I'll touch on all course-related questions, and I'm happy to answer as many as you have thereafter. An interesting one. What's a better way to present a portfolio during interview? And I might ask Kevin this one. Is it a PDF or a website on a laptop, or how do you suggest that one presents their portfolio as a practical question?
Yeah, so when I've done interviews, I've always felt that a website is the best for me. But actually, I went for an interview a few weeks ago before I joined Toyota, and this company, they actually prefer people to show the portfolio in Figma. So I would say it really just depends on who it is that you're presenting to. However, I would say in general, having we are digital designers in the end. So having a web version of your portfolio, no one's ever going to say no good to that. Having a Figma version, I think that's also very good. If you feel that PDF is the best way to demonstrate it, then you can do that as well. But I would say the top two ways personally, I would think is having a website, whether that's through Squarespace or even if you know how to code it yourself, or Figma.
I'd probably also add that the reality is it's going to be viewed before the interview. They talk about how to present it in the interview. So it should be designed in a way that can be skimmed by someone when they're looking at their job applicants and stick out to them. So you will have a chance to go through it during the interview, but whenever I've looked at candidates, I've always skimmed the portfolio first, and if it's no good, I move on to the next candidate typically.
That's pivotal and really, really important. And Will's asked a question similar. Thank you, Will, regarding Behance and things like that. But to capture someone's attention and professionals like yourselves, Justin, that's a really, really good point, to have that in mind, obviously, with what you're presenting, but know the intent that someone's not necessarily has the time to go through hundreds of portfolios, but they do skim certainly the attention-grabbing pieces at the commencement of a portfolio. So bear that in mind. That's really, really sage.
Yeah. I mean, bear in mind, you know, when we are interviewing for candidates, if HR hasn't vetted it, then, you know, we might get hundreds of candidates sending portfolios in. So there will inevitably be some sort of way for us to filter it. And yeah, as mentioned, like, you know, PDF might not pick it. If you've got to send a PDF portfolio, filter that out. That might not be the case. But, you know, if I was personally looking at a whole bunch of them, I would only really look at ones with a web or a Figma portfolio first. Those would be my priority. So making an effort to put those two versions together, I would say, would be the ideal method.
Love it. We've got a little bit more time. There's a question here that I find interesting myself. But I'll open it up to the panel. Someone's curious about how they go about identifying companies that exhibit advanced design maturity. Can you share some insights on the key questions to ask recruiters? And additionally, any pointers uncovering opportunities to join top-notch UX teams would be greatly appreciated. But I think that's a really good question. What are some of the key questions that one can ask that demonstrate research, but also enable further progression within the application funnel? Tilly, Tracy, anyone? Is there any thoughts on that?
I think firstly on this, I think this is a question. It's obviously great to ask recruiters at the early stage, but once you are during the interview process, they're definitely ones which I would direct towards the people in the interview process, because they'll probably have a much more a realistic view of kind of exactly what's going on. I would ask how the roadmaps are built out and how this filters into the overall company vision and mission, and what part design play in the process of defining all of that. That question will give you an idea of how much your job is going to be about thinking about the kind of the strategy and the vision and really being involved in what the company's working on, rather than a place where you're just kind of given something to work on and you don't actually have any input in kind of determining the overall success of the product. So that would be a number one for me. And just asking as well how the designers collaborate with all of the other disciplines within the design and development team. So how do they collaborate with engineers, QAs, product owners, marketing, and other stakeholders? Because I think as well, by that, the answer that you're looking for is obviously like lots of working sessions kind of already established. I think, yeah, they would be my top two.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah, the other thing I think is about the research yourself. Yeah, do ask, but don't just ask recruiters, ask people in your network. In those LinkedIn groups I talked about, join those groups to see what sectors are most active. We talk through the career coaching process about mapping the market. So it's what things are you most interested in? So for you, it's this, and then mapping against the organisations that offer that. So it's your research, you asking, yes, recruiters, but also lots of other people. The other thing I just want to add when we talk about portfolios, it's because this is, you know, it's such a visually apparent industry job that you're going into. It's reflecting your brand in everything you do. So LinkedIn, as well as your portfolio, your LinkedIn branding should reflect your branding that's in your portfolio, that should reflect the branding that's on your CV. So it's that sort of using your creativity to create your own branding and make sure that's consistent across everything.
Fantastic. All very, very good advice, and I so much appreciate all of your time. Just before I do say goodbye, for the audience's benefit, I will make myself available and stick around a bit longer for those that are asking specific course-related questions, criteria, application process, payment plans, all those sorts of things. I'm happy to hang around and cover. But also, we do want to offer more value to you as well as an interested prospective learner or interested within the industry and so forth. So after the event, there will be not only the recording provided, but there is a masterclass on offer for people that have attended with Dennis Leonard, who's the CEO of Creative Navy, a top 10 UX agency globally, on exploring UX in medtech, a fascinating field, obviously, and such a growing field as well. So that is on offer to you via email after this. I do encourage you to download the brochure. There's a link in the chat to that to register for that event. I do encourage you to download the brochure. The link is also in the chat. But right now, I would like to first and foremost thank Kevin, Tilly, Justin, and Tracy on what has been a really, really informative session, and for so much of your time, Kevin, especially on day 2. I still can't believe that. I'm very, very impressed. Please join me in thanking the audience, and I'll stick around. Thank you ever so kindly for your time, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Best of luck, whatever you choose to do. Bye.
Good on you, Tracy. Thank you all. Brilliant. So for those that are interested in more information regarding the actual program, I'll run through that now with you, but I'm opening up this also to any specific questions that you might have about the course. With the Career Accelerator model that we run with King's College in this circumstance, it is important that we get the balance right between industry relevance and the very best of academic underpinnings. And we've struck that brilliantly through partnering with many organisations in the development of the content. First and foremost, Figma, Creative Navy, Atlassian, Dropbox, and others were all consulted for us to learn what it was that they need with the skills for today and with a lens for tomorrow. And then obviously King's provide that brilliant academic rigour and underpinnings to ensure that there's the balance of both that research that they're so famous for, and that was really shone through in the questions that we have. So what that enabled us to do was design the program around the 4 key areas and the 4 courses that make up the program. As I mentioned earlier, understanding users, a critical piece of the element of any UX experience, and designing for user needs is course 2. They all run for 6 weeks, and there's a week reflection in between. Course 3, user-centered product optimization. And lastly is that industry project that we do with Creative Navy and others. The industry projects are a really pivotal part because it's a fantastic way for you to apply your new skills often in a realistic environment. You'll be teamed with 4 or 5 other high caliber candidates to meet with someone like Dennis at Creative Navy, which is just an amazing networking opportunity, number 1, or his team. And they will present to you a scenario or a challenge that you then as a team will work on over a 6-week project to come up with innovative and tangible solutions, presenting your recommendations back to the client in a consultancy style presentation at the end. There's numerous value in that, in the sense that it is practical application of learning. It's a great networking opportunity. And as I may have said earlier, it is in an interview a great way to demonstrate that you do have experience. A lot of that came through in the questions earlier. How do I get that experience? Or how do, my first foot in the door sort of a scenario to say, I've worked with Creative Navy on this particular project as a part of my program with King's. This was the challenge. This was the user experience scenario that they presented. And these are the really innovative outcomes that we presented as solutions. And this is the potential impact that may have. That's a powerful demonstration of your value. Over to questions. So someone's mentioned they can't afford the course, but they would like to know about payment processes. So for those of you that aren't aware, it's a full 6-month program. Ideally, it's around that. Current learners are reporting around 16 hours a week. It is synchronous and asynchronous, meaning there are live sessions that you attend together. And I'm just framing this to then explain the payment plans. Then there is a lot of asynchronous learning where it's designed to fit in with you more so than you fit in with university. So you choose when to study. During the week, there'll be sessions with your success manager, ensuring you're on track. There'll be sessions with Tracy or her coaching team where they dive deep into understanding your values, aligning a really rigorous goal-setting process at the commencement of the course with their coaching of you, which is all designed for you to accelerate your career, hence the name. We do offer payment plans to make this more accessible. So the fees are £7,995. For those of you in attendance, I will offer a discount on that, and you'll get an email following this as well. But we are in a position to offer you interest and fee-free payment plans, ensuring it's more accessible. They may be in the form of 6, 9, or 12-month plans, and we'll certainly look to have a longer plan over 24 months with Kings very, very shortly as well. So please indicate your whether it's your preference or otherwise. We'll walk through that together and come up with the best plan for you, because we do want to make it accessible for more. Questions regarding the program. I've just got one coming through. If Barbara's still in the audience, I'm going to send your question to Tilly as well, or your statement to Tilly as well. The application process is quite straightforward, and I might pop something in the chat now, or even share my screen, because the entry criteria, I'll pop it in the chat in a moment. The entry criteria is either a bachelor's degree previously, it is aimed at postgraduate, or 2 years of relevant work experience or professional experience. The best thing that you can do is chat to your enrolment advisor about that. And then there's the need to provide a personal statement. The personal statement is just 1 page. I will give a link to this in a moment as well. It is just a 1-page overview, enabling us to understand your motivations and your commitment, but also then to use as a part of the assessment of it for application over and above what might be self-evident, say in your previous bachelor degree or so forth. More importantly though, once you're successful, that is valuable information that both your success manager and career coach will use and leverage, or when I say leverage, use to understand more about you, even if there's any areas of empathy that they require in their coaching of you. All those sorts of things are really valuable. So personal statement, I'm going to link shortly, an academic certificate to demonstrate that you've done your undergraduate degree, or your resume, and there may be the need for a reference. And then what is best is one form of identity within the application portal now as well. So I'm going to post the actual application link in the chat box now. I'm also going to give you the template. It's to make it easier to remove any barriers that you may be experiencing, or one more barrier you may be experiencing. I'm going to link also the template for the personal statement. The course commences onboarding. There's a period of onboarding of 3 weeks where you get familiar with the virtual learning environment. For those of you that have studied online before, it's actually Canvas, which is really, really good. You'll design your individualized study plan. You'll meet and greet the academic and the faculty. You'll meet with the career coach and go through a week-long goal setting process as well. But we've still got applications open for the next 2 to 3 weeks or so. There are, though, limited placements available, and it's on merit of application. Just checking any other questions relating to the actual program. So link there is, you'll see the links, the application link, also the opportunity of downloading. You might need to put your email address in for that personal statement. There's the brochure link. And also, if you're already a part of receiving our communications, always feel free to book a time with your enrolment advisor. They're skilled in guiding you through what is a life decision. They'll use empathy towards your individual circumstances. And what we are so excited about is the decision that you've made, number one, today to attend. It's something that possibly another competitor for a job hasn't done. More so, you've been given some amazing tips from industry leaders around what they look for, around the trends in the industry, and tips all through from Tracy and co as well about around positioning yourself. So I think hopefully you've got a lot of value from that as well. Got some questions coming through. So does the course focus on only digital UX, or are real world tasks given? It is designed for roles within the digital economy. However, they are somewhat transferable, and that's a great question. There's always a practical element to it though. So there are no exams in the program for that reason. And it was great for the panel to demonstrate that throughout the program, you'll stack your portfolio of evidence, but there is a heavy slant towards it being in the digital sense as well. There is a crossover between physical and digital in many circumstances in the medtech area. I mean, even if you think about having a can of Coke or something, or a soft drink or whatever now, there's often a QR code where they're encouraging you to look towards their digital product and engage with that brand more and more, which is an important part of the UX for many physical products now. As well, think about a car and the apps that come with that, and even the interface within a modern dashboard is full of UX, as you can appreciate as well. Questions for me? Are there any other questions I can help anyone with, other than well done on making a decision to attend, well done on potentially making a decision to invest in yourself, be that to commence your career in UX, to change your career into UX, or advance your existing career within UX. This course will certainly enable your advancement and acceleration of your career, as I have mentioned. Please go through the process, reach out to my team or myself if we can answer any other questions. And I really look forward to witnessing your receipt of the special that will come out in email following this, your attendance at that amazing event with the CEO of Creative Navy, but more importantly, hopefully your progression throughout the course is what we're most interested in, and the career outcomes that follow, because we at FourthRev and Kings do truly celebrate them whenever we hear, and we hear them daily, of the career outcomes that our learners are achieving. If that's all for the questions, the schedule of there are a couple of questions I'm happy to answer also. Someone said, is the entry requirement of 2 years experience instead of an undergrad degree? Yes, it can be. Exactly. So if someone doesn't have an undergraduate degree, you can demonstrate and meet the entry criteria with 2 years of professional experience. It doesn't have to be specifically you in UX, but somewhere aligned would be ideal. The schedule of the course. So, Jacqueline, thank you for your question. It is around that 16 hours per week, but it is mostly designed to fit in with you, not you fit in with university. So there is one synchronous session with an industry-based academic who will, that usually occurs on a weeknight, or often there's the choice of attending a day session. They're usually an hour and a half, and it's for all learners to come together to hear from the industry-based facilitator, who will go through the modules, for example, for the week, answer your questions. They're always recorded should you not be able to attend live, but always best to attend live so you can answer questions ask questions that are pertinent to yourself, obviously, and your progression within the course. There's great feedback given around your development of assignments and portfolio at the end of each of the courses, and then obviously throughout that industry project. So that 1.5 hour live session, you might have a meeting with your career coach on once a month or so. You'll have meetings with your success manager. There are master classes that we host where industry experts will come in and talk to you, similar to what occurred today, but specifically for learners. There might be recruitment firms and things like that as well. But then your other 14 or so hours of study time asynchronously, it's completely up to you as to when and how you fit that in with your life. So if you felt that you could dedicate an hour or two a day and then some additional hours on the weekend, it should be accommodating of that. And most of our learners are working full-time whilst studying as well. So Jacqueline, I hope that answered your question in relation to just reading the next questions that are coming up, answer the questions in relation to the delivery format as well. That's about it from me. There's a lot of things that I've asked you to click on and do, but it's all in your best interest to do so, hopefully. I do want to thank those of you that are still with me for this time being, for this amount of time. It's gone longer than what was scheduled, but that was only to give you more information about this really, really innovative and new career accelerator in UX design. Thank you all for your time. Take that action that you've been thinking of. We'll look after you all the way through and ensure that your career is accelerated, as it says. Have a great day, and thank you.